do think it's a really serious issue that isn't being taken seriously at all. Adderall has this reputation. Well, it's something that people just like abuse and they don't really need. And I really do think that if it wasn't mental health related, it would be a different conversation.
On October 12th, 2022, the Federal Food and Drug Administration declared a shortage of Adderall, a stimulant drug used to treat ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Teva, the company that supplies the vast majority of Adderall in the United States, faced labor shortage issues and manufacturing delays. And now, more than half a year later, people like Alina Budoreva are still without their prescriptions.
The thing about, being diagnosed with ADHD a little bit later is I kind of like very clearly remember like the before and after. So I think what made it so hard is that like I found something that clearly works for me and it gave me this confidence. So then by having it just like taken away, it's just so, it's so hard. I mean, it's almost like worse than never having it in some ways. The kind of spiraling imposter syndrome of like, well, I don't have Adderall, so I guess I'm not gonna, do anything at all. So that was definitely hard.
Pharmacies are fielding endless inquiries about when pills might be back in stock, and they don't always have the answers. People with existing Adderall prescriptions say they're willing to travel in hopes of getting a script filled.
Hi, I'm wondering if you guys have Adderall in stock?
No, we're not interested at the moment.
Do you guys know when you're gonna potentially have it back?
No.
Hi, I'm wondering if you guys have Adderall in stock?
We do not. We are totally on back order with Adderall.
You don't know when you're gonna have Adderall back?
No, it's a manufacturer issue. They are not sure when they're going to receive it.
There are millions of American adults and children living with ADHD, and this shortage is devastating for them. But because of the way ADHD has been misunderstood, many people don't realize that. Dr. John Slaughter, a New York-based psychiatrist, says there is undoubtedly a stigma associated with ADHD.
At this point in our culture and society, if there's any understanding about attentional issues, frontal lobe function, ADHD, it's misunderstanding, really. People have been struggling profoundly with this medical condition. It's a medical condition that affects the brain, and historically there's been a distinction in regards to this idea. It's a fallacy of mind-body being separate.
Alina understands that feeling well.
Oh, it is very much like, well, you're just being lazy, everyone has trouble focusing, just use some of these like tools like making to-do lists, and you can make an app and you can have your Apple Watch buzz every time, like every 15 minutes, so you know you're focusing and things like that. But it really, like, people just don't understand that it's a brain chemistry thing.
Alina's right. There are chemical and physical differences in the frontal lobes of ADHD brains.
The frontal lobes of our brain are what's responsible for our ability to attend to stimuli.
The way ADHD brains are hardwired makes certain tasks more challenging. Take dopamine. It's a neurotransmitter commonly known as the feel-good chemical, since it helps people regulate their emotions. Lower levels of dopamine in an ADHD brain can impact motivation and attention.
The experience of having ADHD, it's challenging in itself, just simply trying to get through what one needs to accomplish in one's day.
Adderall helped Alina keep her symptoms in check for about 7 years.
I was prescribed Adderall, and suddenly everything kind of all clicked together, like, oh, this is normal. This is how normal people operate in the world. Like, they're able to just wake up in the morning and just do all their tasks that they're supposed to do. Like, that was just like mind-blowing to me that I'd been operating without that.
But now, without what she calls life-saving medication, Alina says her day-to-day feels a lot different.
It's really not being able to get a grasp on all of these tasks that I have in front of me. Like, even if I make a list beforehand, or I know inherently, like, these are the things you have to do today, I would wake up feeling so completely overwhelmed by it that I wouldn't do anything at all. And it would just be this like paralysis. And that led to a lot of really negative, kind of intrusive self-thoughts about like, well, you're just lazy, and like, why can't you just do this? Like, you're supposed to do this. Like, why aren't you doing this? Adderall just makes me feel like I can actually get everything done and kind of do that in a timely way.
Alina is far from alone in her experience.
There are millions of people suffering and struggling to get the medication they require to treat their medical condition. And when they don't get the medication, it impacts their life. It doesn't just impact their life. It impacts all of their loved ones' lives in terms of their functioning. It impacts their professional functioning, which impacts the performance of companies, which on a larger scale impacts the economy. The impacts of this shortage are profound. And because of distortions and a lack of awareness, it's not being attended to. And people who are already suffering and have suffered throughout their life are suffering much more profoundly.
The shortage started because of supply chain issues, but is now being driven by what the FDA calls an unprecedented increase in demand. The pandemic saw a boom of people seeking referrals for ADHD assessment. That's not surprising if you consider how new routines and environments disrupted people's daily lives. For people with ADHD, those changes would have been especially hard to process. The FDA told the Washington Post that manufacturers are working to meet the demand, and the agency is trying to help with supply where it can. But just in 2021, there were 41.4 million prescriptions dispensed for Adderall. So what are all of those people supposed to do? For Alina, the shortage meant rationing her pills at first, but then her supply ran out.
I did have a friend find me some Adderall on a dating app during finals. So yes, people are going to all these great lengths. But again, I mean, allegedly this Adderall that I got came from a pharmacist and it was fine. Nothing happened to me. And I was really thankful that I got like the 2 pills to like help me get through finals at that time. But I mean, that's really dangerous.
Alina believes as long as the shortage continues, so will the desperation and alternate means to get a hold of medication.
Once I realized how life could be so much better on Adderall, like people don't want to go back to that. So of course they're going to look to these like other sources and things. And so that can be really dangerous. And no one should have to go on, Tinder for their basic needs being met in terms of medicine. Like, this is America, this is like the world's wealthiest country, and I think it's just a huge failing of our health system here.